I spoke to one of my friends this week about one of the best shooting coaches in the country. And when I asked, what makes him so great or what differentiates this coach from different coaches or what makes him, have what allows him to have so much success, he really pointed to his use of analogies and said that he's a great teacher because he's able to come up with, individual analogies for individual players. He's definitely has some certain things that he sticks to and abides by and are part of his philosophy of shooting. But he's also very individual in his instruction and is willing and able to vary his instruction based on the individual and the individual's skill set, body composition, etc. Analogies are a great teaching tool, primarily for two reasons. Probably others, but these are the two that come to mind first. Is one, the brain sees pictures. So when we say words, we're automatically turning those words into images in our mind. A certain word doesn't have meaning except for the meaning that we give to it. So when we read a word on a page, it's a representation of something in the world, whether that's tangible or intangible, an idea or something concrete. And so we, see these images. So if somebody says book, I immediately know what a book is because I've seen a book. I equate that word with that object. And so that's one of the reasons why analogies work with, teaching skills is because we're already going to do that in the brain anyway, but instead of, having to take a long list of instructions and try to create an image out of them, we're simply giving an image to a player. One of the analogies that I like to use with players, shoot out of a telephone booth. So if I'm trying to get a player to shoot the ball higher, or maybe to have a slightly higher release, or to put some more air under the ball, shoot out of a telephone booth. And immediately, players, at least adults, children today may not know what a telephone booth is, but they can picture what a telephone booth would be and how they would have to shoot the ball to get it out of the telephone booth. And I don't have to go through a list of, okay, I want you making sure that you're doing this and this and then this and then this and your elbows at this point, your shoulders rotating here, and then your hand, and then this is when I don't have to do any of that. I just say shoot out of a telephone booth, and immediately, the basic instruction is understood, and the players are able to make an immediate change to a shot because it clicks, because it's a picture, it's an analogy, it's something that they can readily use. The second reason why analogies are very impactful as a teaching strategy is because they become external cues, or they direct the player's attention externally as opposed to internally. So the most common instruction that you hear during games is bend your knees. So when a player hears bend their knees, that's an internal cue. Now I'm focusing on my knees and not the basket, the ball, what's in front of me, how I'm trying to shoot. And so it's been shown in study after study that an external cue, especially for experienced players or elite players, is going to have a much better impact on performance than an internal cue. An internal cue is going to tend to lead to more choking, or struggles, or basically your mind tries to intercept your physical action. So you've practiced this shot over and over again, but now you hear this internal cue, or you start to cue yourself internally, and now you disrupt your normal coordination, and that's where a lot of mistakes will occur, is because you're essentially trying to override your practice skill, and do it from a conscious standpoint as opposed to allowing that subconscious skill to perform naturally. And so by directing my attention externally, I avoid the problem with that cognition. So, if I, again, shoot out of a telephone booth, I'm getting them to focus something outside their body. If I want somebody, again, to get their elbow higher, I might say, put more air under the ball. as opposed to I want to see your elbow extend higher. Because if I direct their attention to their elbow, now they're focusing on an internal cue as opposed to putting the cue more on the performance and more on the external, and now they can self-organize and figure out how to get the ball higher. So a lot of times, at the free throw line, player misses short, bend your knees, and we think that's going to solve the problem. But again, with the internal cue, we're also limiting the range of solutions that the player can find to get more air in the ball or to shoot the ball higher, to get the ball, whatever the mistake that led to the ball missing short was, which very rarely does it actually have anything to do with the knees anyway. So really it could be that the player needs to extend quicker. It could be they need to finish more on their toes or extend more, at the ankle. It could be that they need to release the ball higher. They need to release with their elbow at a higher point. They need to finish their follow through a little bit more. So there's a lot of different factors involved that could lead to a shot being short from the free throw line. And so if we limit the solution to one thing, focus on the knees, bend your knees, we're not giving the body the opportunity to self-organize itself and find that solution from a variety of methods, whether it's starting at the feet or whether it's more on the hand and elbow. So that's another problem with using more internal cueing. When I use an external cue, I allow the body to self-organize and find its solution as opposed to limiting that solution. So again, one of the best shooting coaches in the country, is heavy on the analogies and is great coming up with analogies for individual players, for individual problems. And that's really a skill that can turn a good teacher into a great teacher into a really exceptional teacher, is being able to come up with those analogies that fit with an individual player and the needs that one sees in that player to try to elevate the performance or improve their performance both in practice and in games.